Hi, this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the July and maybe August, if I have time, if I don't melt down during this. Oh God, it's so hot. It's so hot today in the UK. It is probably, well, it's been 32 degrees here. I don't know what that's in Fahrenheit, but it's really hot. It's so hot that my computer kind of melted. And I hoovered it up because the fans weren't working, and now it is working. So let's go. That's a tip, by the way. I didn't know this. I was just told that, yeah, if you just hoover the little vents on a laptop, because I've never had a MacBook Pro before, I've always had the big monster machine. It seems to be fine now, which is great. So July is going to be mental. You've already seen the two eclipses, and there's also the Mercury retrograde as well. So I don't know what more can be said about July, except that, let's see. Well, there's stuff going on with that South Node. So the hotspot is definitely 17 degrees of Capricorn, and anyone that also has planets or any important angles on 17 degrees of the cardinals is going to feel this effect really, really strongly, because it's just going to make a grand cross, because on July the 9th we get the sun at 17 degrees of Cancer as well, so it'll be conjunct the North Node, and of course it's eclipse month as well, so the nodes are really, really being triggered too. Now so both eclipses are on this angle. The first one is going to be on the 2nd of July, and that's at 10 degrees Cancer. And then the eclipse after that is on... it's... where is it? 16th of July, and that'll be on the 24th. That's on quite a hot spot, actually, 24 degrees of Capricorn, because Pluto's pretty close by at 22 degrees of Capricorn. Then, of course, the sun is going to hit the degree of Sirius, which is also the US of A chart. So what I'm going to do is, hopefully in the future, I'm going to carry on with this and look at the... I like to look at the UK and the US charts. I know it's very biased towards Western civilization, but that's where we are. And I've got lots of American clients, and being in the UK, obviously, I want to see what's going on there as well, because I think there's definitely a very special relationship, I think, between the two Atlantic superpowers, and the UK used to be a superpower at one point. Now it's the US, really. And then the relationship with Russia as well. Now Putin has really come out in the news as well, hasn't he, with his statement that, what did he say, liberalism is obsolete now. So all the Guardian and the BBC are up in arms about it, going, he's an old patriarch and oligarch, and of course he comes from Russia, so who's he to talk? Yeah, but Russia was communist, and I don't want to get into that actually at the moment, but the point is, it's interesting, because he's just talking about, he was just saying quite okay things about Trump as well, so he wasn't slagging him off. And then the Dalai Lama also comes out, pipes up, and starts going on about if Europe doesn't send back its immigrants, then of course it should do things to help them, but educate them and then send them back home, because otherwise Europe will become Muslim in the future, and that's not good. And he's referring, really, like I've said before, he's referring to the fact that China and Tibet, he's from Tibet, and he's seen the engulfment of Tibet as well from China. So he knows about strong borders and barriers. And this is what the theme is, because of Saturn on the South Node as well. So this is karmic stuff, and I think a lot's going to come to a head when the Sun is opposite Saturn on those nodes on July the 9th. I mean, that's a big day. So with the retrograde as well, with the 2 eclipses, July is just going to be a real... it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot. Plus, also, there will be a Mars-Mercury square Uranus as well. As Venus is going to square Uranus too. So Uranus gets all these triggers too. And see, Uranus in Taurus is a weird one because it's almost like it's the opposite energy. And I was thinking that it may be the whole extinction rebellion thing, because that's been a big thing lately, and it does. I don't know if I've talked about this before. It's something that's kind of struck me about it, because in England, when there was the whole Free Tommy Robinson Footballers Alliance march, and when that happened, he was going on about what's his name? This Channel 4 reporter, Jon Snow. He was going, I've never seen so many white people in one place, like as if it was something sinister, because it was the football, because it was for Tommy Robinson, obviously. So he didn't say they were white supremacists, but you could tell he was like, he had to make a point of saying that. And then when I looked at Extinction Rebellion, well, you could say the same thing there, really. I mean, it was predominantly pretty much middle class hippies, and I know it was a little bit more colourful, shall we say, but generally it's a white phenomena, vegans and all that kind of stuff. So you could have equally said the same thing of the Extinction Rebellion. And then it also made me think it's kind of ironic, really, because the white supremacists think that white people are going extinct as well. So maybe that's their way of sort of saying it subconsciously. They don't even realise what they're doing. All right, it might be an eco thing, but really, subliminally or in their subconscious, maybe that's what they're really picking up on. It's just, I just thought it was quite ironic, that's all. So yes, Uranus is the planet of revolution and rebellion, turning things upside down, and it being in Taurus, Taurus is very much a material sign, and this is the material world we're in, the 3D, and I mean, this is the ironic thing as well, is that this is what it's population that does cause the consumption of burning fossil fuels. The more people, the more travel, the more people who want cars, and the more people come to the West and want Western civilization, and then also in the West, it gets cold, so we need to heat our houses. It's weird, really. If we were going to be really eco-friendly, we'd want the majority of the population in sort of warm places where they wouldn't need all the sort of mod cons of Western civilization. But also, when you think of the very high population places like India and China, they're not really doing anything to cut down their emissions. And this is the crazy thing, is like a lot of companies in the West, I mean, I'm not saying that the West is blameless here, but it's the globalists in the West who want to save money by putting their companies, they don't make them local anymore. They leave a huge carbon footprint by making these making products in China or wherever it's cheaper, where they can get slave labor, and then bringing it back to the West. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. So local things for local people, like the hippies were sort of championing in the beginning, is what will save the planet. And it might stop traffic in London for a day, but what about the rest of the world? So I just think it's just a weird thing, the Extinction Rebellion, and the main people that are involved with this, they're all going to be pretty much Greens and to the left, aren't they? So and it doesn't help that I guess there are climate deniers, and Donald Trump is one of them, I guess, too. So I don't want to get into that big kind of debate, but there's a lot of questions with it. It's not as simple as the kind of virtue signalling that these kind of privileged people that do this Extinction Rebellion thing, and it makes me laugh, really. And then what happens is the green tax comes in, and who does it tax? It taxes really the working class, because they usually are in jobs where it entails needing petrol, lorry drivers or whatever, and moving around. So it's all like upside down, and that's what revolution is about, really. So Uranus at the moment, it's not on any particular fixed star. Well, it's not very close to any of them, but it is on the horns of Aries, the ram, because remember, precession, it means that the constellations are in different places. So Aries, the constellation of Aries, is being hit actually by Uranus. So this kind of combative, revolutionary spirit of Uranus in the constellation of Aries is quite, there's that side to it as well. But yeah, because it's going to be square the Mercury retrograde when it's conjunct Mars as well, I just think there's going to be a lot of these demonstrations and more of this Extinction Rebellion thing. And it's just more, I mean, when you see the people how they dress up for it as well, I mean, it's very artistic. Obviously lots of artistic bohemian types are involved with these things, and anything to kind of get some attention. And I know some of them are doing it because they want to save the planet. I don't doubt that. I mean, I'm someone who is Miss Organic Supreme. I tried to use all my I can't speak, it's too hot. My household products are all eco stuff, and I don't flush anything yucky down the toilet. All my makeup's organic, everything is toxic free. So I think, we just have to do it by vote with our purse. But obviously not everyone can afford to buy organic makeup, although there are some cheap stuff now, and there's more and more of it now, and more vegan stuff as well. I've noticed too, it's becoming a big trend. So I think that's a good thing, and I think that may be what Uranus in Taurus is about. Is, as women, loud aeroplane. As women, too, we actually take in a lot of toxins, probably more than men, through cosmetics and clothes, because men tend to wear cotton stuff. And they don't wear makeup. So it's women who are taking in way more toxins, because the amount of stuff, the amount of petrochemicals in cosmetics is ridiculous. I check everything. I have a list. I go through every single ingredient. And I mean, it is really tedious to have to do that. But there are some good apps now, like Think Dirty, and there's another online website as well, where you can just put a ingredient in and see how safe it is. It is, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. And I think because of that, cosmetic companies are now really being aware of it. And lipstick's another thing. It's really hard to, anyway, I'll tell you who's really good with organic makeup. It's America, and I have to pay the customs charge all the time to get lovely lipsticks, organic ones from America, because also their colours are nicer. They obviously cater for more than just pink, because in Europe it's all geared towards. Germany's a really big market as well for eco cosmetics, but you can see it's very geared. They're all very cool colours, and they're all for very sort of blonde Nordic sort of skin colours and cool toned. Whereas the US, because of the variety and the diversity, you can get really nice, like lovely gold colours and more kind of orangey. Yeah, I find that the American cosmetics are so much better as well. So that's another thing. If we do a trade agreement with the US, I would love it. I would so love it, because all the stuff I buy that's organic, it comes from America. Most of it, I'd say, about 70% of it, and the rest comes from Germany. Germany's really big on vegan, cruelty-free, and eco cosmetics. So that's my little cosmetics kind of rant there. Maybe not. Maybe hopefully it's kind of a bit educational, because I know I have the vast majority of my audience is female, and you really have to think about what you put on your skin, because it absorbs it all. And another thing as well, the cases of breast cancer, it's all to do with toxins, and I'm sure it's mainly to do with cosmetics as well. Now, if you look at the things from China, oh my God, if you buy things off Amazon, which I do, and I sometimes, there are cheaper things, and they're all from China, and they're the most toxic stuff. So I just don't buy things from there anymore. There's the Korean beauty craze as well, and their stuff, some of that's pretty good as well. So that they seem to be okay. Japan as well, but China. So yeah, it's interesting what countries. You can definitely see that some countries are better than others with this green environment thing, because you can protest about cars, but what about the petrol stuff in cosmetics? Because it's all going into landfill sooner or later. Just plastic, and plastic cosmetics. You can't be a true green person just because you go on these marches if you're consuming and funding companies that are using toxic ingredients, So, yeah, very important. So let's look more at the astrology again. So I wanted to look at the charts of the UK and America, because something is definitely going down, and we're going to have a new Prime Minister on the 22nd, and I just think it just seems it's really strange that America and the UK are having the same sort of, we've got the same, it's the same, and if we get Boris Johnson, it's going to be two yellow-headed men that everybody hates as leaders, so that'll be quite funny. But anyway, so I use precessions, so because the US chart is so old, it will pull everything back. So at the moment, this is really interesting because the nodes are square the US Saturn. And all this for the solar return of the USA, its birthday, on July the 4th. Wow, also the North Node is on the US Sun as well. So this is such a big turning point. Now, I already know that Trump was going to... this being on the verge of war with Iran, I mean, this is huge as well. He was going to send a missile or something, and then asked how many people it would kill, and somebody said 150, and he said, oh, well, that's a bit rubbish for just a robot, so for a drone. So he backed out. So that's good. That's good. So let's just hope that continues. But I think, I do think there are definitely people around him that are rattling their sabers, aren't they? So let's see what happens. But I think this is a really important time for the US, really hugely, because of the nodes being on their sun. Now, because the nodes go backwards, they retrograde and they sort of zigzag along backwardsly, that's a word. The North Node won't get to the US sun until the end of August. So this is a real summer of big transition for the US as well. And while Saturn is also opposite the US sun as well. So you see, this is why the rise in conservatism is happening. It's just that, and as much as the progressives, want to keep on progressing, so-called progressivism, it's just not what's happening. You can't go against the cycles, and there are cycles for progression and there are cycles for conservatism, and we always find a balance. Nature finds a balance, and if things get too out of hand and too off balance, then it will swing the other way, and that's all that's happening. So it's really pointless getting worked up and angry about it. Even it's like people might say, oh, well, it's all right for you to say because it's now swung towards what you're into. And I think, well, not really, because I've swung that way myself. I was a floating voter. I was definitely on the progressive side for most of my life. So it's only swung the other way because I guess I'm swinging with the times. And also because I'm getting older, I guess, as well. And I've got a daughter, so as you get older, it's kind of natural to do that. But remember also, the US has already really been transforming and evolving, or resurrecting itself, or trying to, because Pluto's already been opposite the US sun. So it's gone through this kind of almost died, but now it's resurrecting itself. Hang on, I haven't really looked at the transits for 2016 when Trump came along. Oh yeah, Pluto was opposite the sun then, wasn't it? So, and again, I use precession, so it may not be exact, but November it was 12 degrees of Capricorn, so pretty close. And yeah, all during that year it was going across opposite the sun. So now, for America as well, you got to think, well, what does the sun? It's the leader, isn't it? It represents the leader. The moon will represent the people more, and the sun rules the ninth house. So it was founded by people who travelled from afar, which is the ninth house. That's how it is a nation of immigrants, really. But the founders started with nothing. So it's a little bit different from immigrants that came later on. So anyway, now let's look at the UK. See, again, we are tied together with the US because, again, we had our Trump moment with Brexit in 2016. Same thing. And with us, it was Pluto, again, pretty close. Our sun is at 10 degrees of Capricorn. For the US, for the UK, but our moon is at 19 of Cancer, that is. So we've got the Pluto opposition to come. But that is interesting, isn't it? That the USA's sun is opposite the UK sun, and we're Capricorn, and USA is Cancer. Very interesting. So with Pluto doing its thing on both of them. But I think if you weren't using precession, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be so obvious. And in terms of synastry, actually, that's a really nice synastry between the UK and the US as well, because the sun and the moon are conjunct as well. So yeah, UK moon at 19 Cancer. Oh, another good thing for the US as well, they do have transiting Jupiter on their ascendant at 12 degrees. In July, it'll be retrograde. So, I don't know, I wonder. I mean, this is July the 11th, so I wonder if there's going to be some nice trade deals going. It would be a real shame if it's ruined by a stupid war. I don't think that's going to happen. It doesn't matter whether you think Trump's a nice person or a nasty person or whatever, but hopefully he'll be vain enough not to have his image ruined by, a war, because he wants to get back in 2020, doesn't he? So yeah, he'd be stupid. As for the UK, let's have a look at what's going to happen on July the 22nd. Okay, so they'll be voting in a prime minister during Mercury retrograde, so they might change their minds. I don't know. This Boris, I don't like him. I just don't like him. I just think it's great that he seems to be the one who's supposed to be the best for a Brexit, but that's because we're desperate. There's no one else. The other guy, Jeremy Hunt, he just seems like a globalist kind of Macron type person. So, and there's something about him I don't like. I haven't looked at his chart yet, but he just seems really sneaky. So, Boris, don't trust him. The other one, sneaky. So what does that mean for England? I mean, July the 22nd, we're going to get whatever we get. We're going to want to change them anyway, either one. And I just think it's got to be Farage. I mean, I know he's not in the Tory party, but both of them are going to make such a pig's ear of it again that there'll be no alternative. I don't think we'll leave in October, and there'll be a general election, I think. And anyway, that's looking too far ahead, and haven't even looked at the astrology. I'm making big assumptions there, but that's my kind of gut feeling. But as far as transits going on the 22nd, nothing much happening really for the UK. I mean, Saturn, South Node, and in Capricorn, they're actually not too far away from the UK Sun. Saturn by precession is at 12, and it's actually applying towards the Sun. So going for a conservative, just staying what we know with what we know now. Both of them are kind of like that, really, because the Tory party, the base of the Tory party, they know Boris, and he's been the London mayor, and he did okay doing that. And so, as much as he's an annoying person, they might just go for what they know because it's him. Whereas Jeremy Hunt, although he's no change there either, because he just wants to carry on with what Theresa May was doing. So that Saturn coming towards the Sun, it's just going to be more of the same, and the same hasn't worked so far in the Conservative Party. So yeah, I don't think they'll be bringing us a Brexit really, with whoever they vote in, because it is important who they vote in on the 22nd. It really is, because if we had Farage, then we would get a Brexit. But these are all too worried about their careers and what Europe's going to give them and bribe them or whatever. So none of them wanted to do anything really. They don't really want to do what the public want. I mean, that's basically it. It doesn't affect them. So there's nothing going on in the UK much over the summer. Just MPs going on holiday. In the US, it's a lot more colourful, I think. Yeah, the US has got some nice transits. So just to refresh, it's got Jupiter on the ascendant. It's got North Node on the Sun. It's got Uranus actually is sextiling their Venus, so money changes there as well. And then they've got Saturn opposite Sun, which is probably good if you're coming from a sort of traditional perspective, going back to traditional values. And I know that there have been changes to the abortion law in the South, hasn't there, as well, which are making it harder. So I just think it's up to individual states. If you live in one of these more liberal states, then you choose. What it'll do is it'll make people move to the places that aligns more closely with their values. And if you're pro-life, then you move to a pro-life state. If you're pro-choice, then you move to a pro-choice state. That's true diversity, rather than telling the whole of the US that they have to do this and do one or the other. So I think that's what's going on. It's becoming more, is it federal? So that each state has got more there's more sort of differences between them. So, and I mean, that's what's happening all over anyway, like the same with Europe. It's better to manage things in small little chunks rather than these massive big corporations. They're trying to do what they're doing with business with countries, and it just doesn't work, because then things just break up. That's what happens in nature. It happens, same thing, it's the same with the weather. When it just gets too hot, then you get the thunderstorm. So everything adjusts itself. So that's my sweltering report for the summer for the US and the UK. Hang on. Yes, I wanted to have a look at the charts of the Dalai Lama and Putin, why they're in the news at the moment. Why are they being so vocal? So isn't this interesting? The Dalai Lama has also the sun at 12, almost 13 degrees of Cancer. So there you go. So he's getting hit by the node Saturn conjunction. Oh, the Dalai Lama has also got Mars at 18 Libra as well. So that's being squared by the nodes and Saturn. So yeah, he's being a bit edgy, isn't he, with his statements about Europe. And this makes me laugh, because whenever he gets asked about what do you think about the next Dalai Lama being a woman, all he ever says is, oh, well, she has to be pretty. I think he's just laughing at them. It's funny. Yeah. So he kind of avoids getting into a big kind of feminist discussion about things, because, the divine masculine, divine feminine have got very different roles. And, I know what I think about it. I do think there is a divine feminine, and I do think there's room for priestesses. And, obviously we have nuns and we have monks. There is that. But in terms of leadership, it is a male divine masculine energy. The female, the queen, is there to support the king. She's not there to lead really on her own. I know it's happened. I know there are strong women. I do kind of count myself as one. But when it comes to fighting and even spiritual warfare, I think the divine masculine has the edge. I'm sorry if that offends some women, but I just think they do. So yeah, there must be a reason that most faiths, that the head patriarch is a patriarch. It's also, you got to think of this symbolically as well. The number 1 is masculine, the number 2 is feminine, the number 3 is the product of those two. It's the same as Osiris, Isis, and Horus. The triple thing, it all works together. Anyway, I don't want to get into a big thing about that. But anyway, I just think it's interesting. I just think it's so clever and funny and hilarious the way that the Dalai Lama reacts to progressives trying to ask about, female lamas by, oh, she must be pretty. Anyway, so that makes me laugh. Now, Putin, same thing. He has got Sun at 13 degrees of Libra. There you go. Another cardinal sign being squared by these nodes. He's also got Saturn at 17 degrees of Libra. So he's getting a kind of Saturn squaring thing going on too. So he's kind of coming to the end of his... I don't know when they retire in Russia, but I think he's coming to the end of his stint as the president, surely, by now. So I think he's kind of like, again, just sort of throwing out whatever just wanting to cause a bit of a stir by saying this thing about, liberalism is obsolete and again, they always ask about gay rights in Russia, and he says they have rights, but obviously... there are limits. Again, Saturn. There are limits to immigration. Saturn, and patriarchy. Saturn. So he's just doing his Saturn, and Saturn is doing its thing at the moment. So that's what astrology is all about. It's about accepting cycles, accepting there's no right or wrong really, because all planets have their uses. Now, this could be a very long thing if I start talking about the demiurge and how the planets are the demiurge and the creator god is outside of the planets. It's not the sun. That might be something that I discuss next month. But I'm having a lot of really nice insights at the moment. There's a lot of good stuff on YouTube, and it's really nice to get into the spiritual side of things. And just in answer to somebody who started yelling at me because of me saying that I'm a Christian and then going on about paedophilia and the church being corrupt. I know that. I'm not a churchgoer. I'm talking about Christianity and the Bible as an esoteric thing, as not a literal thing. And actually, just another thing I wanted to say. I know some people say that they don't think Jesus existed and he's just a symbolic thing. I think it's a bit of both. I do believe there was a prophet Jesus. I do believe, just like I think there was a Buddha at some point. Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, they're all the same, but they're all prophets and they're all very enlightened beings. I think maybe there was more than one Jesus as well, but that's not to say that you go around saying that Jesus is the only one. See, I don't believe that. I don't believe he's the only one that can save us. I think, Buddha can save you. I think Allah can save you as well. And the Muslims don't discount Jesus, actually. So that's my view of it. I just want to choose the Christian flavour of it because Christianity is what I grew up with and that's what I'm most comfortable with. But the Greco-Roman as well, everything that's nearer to me, that I understand it better. But it doesn't mean to say that's the only way and it's the best way. It's just what I'm comfortable with. And so everyone should have their cultural belief system that suits them. And that's all there is to it, really. So rather than not believing anything at all, which is just complete atheism, and I'm not into that at all, because I just think atheists are worse than anyone because they go around being really superior about, oh, you believe in this made up person, Jesus didn't exist, and so yes, that's my view on Christianity. And also I know that there is corruption within Buddhism. I know of someone who was raped by a Buddhist monk. So I know it happens. Everyone in every cult, it happens because there are going to be some. What's the word? Well, actually, evil people who will go into take those guru roles in order to exploit people. And, same with, what's his name? The Maharishi, I think, was sleeping with some of his followers. So it happens in all of them, in every single cult or religion or spiritual group. It just gets infiltrated. That's Neptune. That's the nature of Neptune. And that's why it's important to understand the energies of the planets, because then you know what their negative manifestations are, and then you can say, oh well, yeah, that's what goes with that territory, and always work to keep to the positive manifestations of each planet, because we're in the 3D world, and the planets are part of that 3D reality. They are material beings. They're not spiritual, really. They exist in physical form. So that's the weird thing, we look up to the sky and it's like, ooh, it's spiritual, but actually they're there. They're actually physically there. So that's on that note, I think I will end it and go and have a nice cool beer, because it's just too hot to do any more work. And yeah, it's 9:15 p.m. So yeah, I'm due a beer. I'm not an alcoholic. All right then. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.